Hello there. Welcome back to the continuation of our Lesson 3, where our goal is to learn the commonly used tags in HTML and to give us the basic foundation in writing HTML pages. In this session, we will learn the commonly used tags for forms and data input purposes. These are the tags used for creating interactive web pages where users can input data, select data, click buttons, etc. Without further ado, let's begin. Here are some of the commonly used tags for interactive web forms and data input purposes. These tags are form, label, input, text area, select, option, option group, fieldset, legend, and button. The form tag in HTML is used to create an interactive area on a web page where users can input data and submit it to a server for processing. Here in our example, the form tag creates an interactive area by enclosing the input tags where user interaction will take place. That is, the input tag is where users will key in data. The form tag has an action attribute that specifies the URL where the form data will be sent. The method attribute is set to post, indicating that the form data will be sent using the HTTP post method. In this example, the form tag contains 3 input fields. We will learn about the input tag later. For now, know that a form tag is used to enclose tags used for user interaction. The label tag is used to associate a label with an input element, providing a textual description or caption for the input field. In our example, the label tag will display the label name, : The attribute for is used to identify which element the label is for. Its value will be the ID of the corresponding element. Here, for has a value of name, which means that this is a label for this input element whose ID is name. The input tag is used to create various types of input fields where users can enter data or make selections. The specific type of input field is defined by the type attribute of the input tag. Here in our example, different types of input are demonstrated. We have the type text for username. A type of text means that the input field allows the user to enter alphanumeric characters. Next, we have the type password for password data field. A type of password allows users to enter sensitive information, such as passwords, which are typically masked to hide the actual characters being typed. We also have the type email for the email data field in our example. An email type provides a convenient way for users to input email addresses, and can also include built-in validation to ensure the entered value follows the basic email format. Another input type is number. Here in our example, the age data field is defined as number type. A number type allows users to enter numeric values, such as integers or decimal numbers, within a specified range. The next type is checkbox. In our example, a checkbox input field is used as a subscription indicator. A checkbox type allows users to select or deselect one or more options from a predefined set of choices. Next is the radio type. An input field of radio type creates a radio button. It allows users to select a single option from a list of predefined choices. When multiple radio buttons share the same name attribute, only one can be selected at a time within that group. Here in our example, we have a group of radio buttons representing gender options. The name attribute is used to group radio buttons. It ensures that only one option can be selected at a time within this gender group. The value attribute specifies the value that will be submitted if the radio button is selected. The last in our example is the submit type. The submit type of the input tag in HTML is used to create a button that submits a form to the server for processing. When a user clicks on the submit button, it triggers the form submission process, sending the form data to the server. Aside from the type attribute, an input tag can have a name attribute. The name attribute of the input tag in HTML is used to define the name of the input control. When a form is submitted, the name attribute is used to access the data entered in that particular input field. This is useful during client or server-side processing of the form data. We also have the placeholder attribute for an input tag. The placeholder attribute is used to provide a brief hint or example text to the user about the expected value or format for an input field. It is typically used to guide users on what information should be entered in the input field. Here in our example, the placeholder attribute values are displayed in the input controls to guide users on what information they should enter in these fields. Next is the value attribute for an input tag. The value attribute of the input tag in HTML is used to specify the initial value or the current value of an input field. It allows you to pre-fill an input field with a default value. Here in our example, the radio controls are pre-filled with the default values of male, female, and other. The same goes for the button control having a default value of submit. We also have the checked attribute, which is used for checkbox and radio types. The checked attribute is used with checkboxes and radio buttons to pre-select or mark an option as selected by default. It allows you to specify that an option should be checked or selected when the page is loaded. Here in our example, the subscribe to newsletter checkbox is checked by default. This is because the checked attribute is specified in the input tag. We will learn more about the input tag in another example in the later part of this session. The text area tag in HTML is used to create a multiline text input area where users can enter and edit larger amounts of text. In our example, the text area tag creates a text input area. The ID and name attribute identifies the text area when the form is submitted to the server. The rows attribute specifies the number of visible lines or rows in the text area, and the calls attribute specifies the number of visible characters or columns. Users can enter and edit text within the text area. The select tag is used to create a drop-down list of options. An option is represented by the option tag. In our example, the select element creates the drop-down list, and each option element represents an available choice. An option tag can have a value attribute, which can be used for processing such as calculations or database operations. The option group tag is an HTML element used within the select element to group related options together. It allows you to create a logical grouping of options within a drop-down list or a list box. In our example, we have a drop-down list with two groups, fruits and vegetables. The option group tag is used to create these groups. Each option group element has a label attribute that specifies the name of the group. Within each option group, we have individual option elements representing the options within that group. The fieldset tag is an HTML element used to group related form elements together and create a visual separation or container for them. It is often used in combination with the legend tag to provide a title or description for the group. Here in our example, the fieldset tag creates a rectangular box as a container for the elements within it. The legend tag creates the title personal information for the group. The button tag is an HTML element used to create interactive buttons on a web page. It can be used to trigger an action when clicked by the user. In our example, the button element is used to create a submit button by setting the type attribute to submit. When the button is clicked, it submits the form to the URL specified in the form's action attribute, and using the specified HTTP method. Here is a simple web page demonstrating the tags we just learned. This is the first part of the HTML codes. And this is the continuation part. Let us go through each HTML elements and the corresponding output. The first element we discussed in this session is the form tag. Here in our example, the form tag basically encloses the entire quick registration form, which contains the elements for interaction with users. The action attribute indicates the destination URL, or web page, when the user clicks on Submit button. This is the page where the form data will be sent. Here in our example, submit.html will receive and perform any necessary processing of the registration data entered by the user. The method attribute is set to post, indicating that our form's purpose is to submit data. The next tag we learned is the input tag. Here, we have an input tag of type text for the name field, and an input tag of type email for the email field. Following is the textarea tag. Here, we used a textarea element with visible size of 4 rows and 30 columns for the message field. We also learned the select tag, together with the option and option group tags. The select tag creates a drop-down list of options. Each option is defined in an option tag, while options can be grouped using the option group tag. Here in our example, we have a list of options for subscription plan field. We have 2 groups of options, which are defined in the option group tag. The first group is the basic plan, and the second group is the premium plan. Under each group, we have 3 options, which are defined in option tags. Let us move on to the continuation part of our HTML page. The next tags we learned are the fieldset and legend tags. The fieldset tag creates a visual separation or container for a group of elements, and the legend tag is used to provide a title or description for the group. In our example, we used the fieldset tag to create a visual separation or group for the gender field, and we used the legend tag to display the title gender for the group. And lastly, we learned about the button tag, which is used to trigger an action when clicked by the user. In our example, we have 2 button tags. The first is the submit button, and the second is the cancel button. The submit button has a type of submit, which indicates that on click of submit button, the form data will be submitted to the URL specified in the form's action attribute. The browser will also redirect to that URL. For the cancel button, it has a type of button. In this example, we do not have an action to trigger when the cancel button is clicked. We will learn in the succeeding lessons the other methods on how to add an action to a button. This concludes our learning of the basic interactive tags. Do note that we only discussed and learned the basics to provide you with an overview and understanding of how HTML tags work in an interactive web page for users. Next in our HTML series will be part 4 of Lesson 3, the different image tags. Do watch out for our next video.